And for today's topic, I wanted to discuss this here Fire Rift Beast. This year is one of my favorite Rift Beast monsters to have fun and play with and fool around and mess around with teams with. Primarily because you have to farm it a lot to get fight runes. And fight runes are actually one of the newer runes that we get from our recently released Rift Beast content that actually have like some really cool uses, a lot of which I've had the opportunity to like mess around and play with for a little bit. So for today, I kind of wanted to show how I am currently doing the Fire Rift, and maybe discuss a little bit of strategy too. And for today's stream, I just went ahead and we're gonna go grab the chat here in just a second, like maybe when more people show up. But right now the chat isn't up. We'll pull that in just a second after a short interlude. But first off, let's talk about like this particular Fire Rift team that I'm using. From what I have discovered through my experience of using this team, it does a pretty good job of autoing with an S about 70% of the time, 75% of the time, and then it gets double S maybe about 20% of the time. And then there are really rare A pluses and really rare triple S's. Sometimes it gets some RNG and gets some triple S's in there every now and then. And I've kind of discovered that the easiest way to start building a Fire Rift team, of course, is just to use like a bunch of AoE monsters, right? But if you can rack up the big scores, I guess I put it this way: if you use a bunch of AoE monsters, it's easy to clear, okay, and you can clear it really easy. However, oftentimes when you take a bunch of AoE type monsters, you end up sacrificing your team's ability to do damage during boss groggy state. Okay, and that's kind of an important strategy for building a higher end Fire Rift team. You kind of have to find a balance between getting enough AoE in there to where your team isn't dying, but at the same time incorporating enough raw damage along with armor break and possibly brand so that your scores improve with you getting the opportunity to do massive damage during the boss groggy state. So the reason why I'm using this particular team here is because it is the balance. It is the fine balance between being able to keep enough AoE going to where I'm not wiping on the ads, but at the same time have enough armor break, enough brand, and enough straight up sheer damage in order to do enough damage during the boss groggy state to get the consistent S, right? Which incorporates like the bonus loot, so to speak. And here in a few moments, we'll talk about runes and go into more strategy about why I'm using this particular team. And then in a little bit, maybe we'll just talk about like general strategies for Fire Rift and have people share what they find is useful for them in Fire Rift. And there's a couple other things I'd like to talk about. Some monsters that I would really love to have for this particular Rift Beast. But right now, I'm going to put up a quick break on the stream and go grab the chat so we can hang out. But I'm not going anywhere, I promise. All right, all right, all right. We got chat. Sorry about that. There we go. All better. Okay. So, where were we? Fire Rift Beast. Uh-oh, look at that. We got Brand and we got Armor Break. And that's why this team, right? Because you're trying to rack up the Brand and the Armor Break at the same time on the groggy state, right? That's what gets you the good scores. But you also have to have enough AoE so that your team doesn't wipe. Because if you wipe, the best you can get is like an A+, right? So the key point to the topic of like why I wanted to make this video is that Fire Rift is the easiest. He's the easiest beast. Okay, it doesn't take much to clear it, right? But when you clear it, you don't get maximum scores unless you achieve that fine balance between enough AoE to survive and armor break and possibly brand and raw damage in order to pump up the damage on the groggy state. When the rifts were first released, things were a little bit different, and then Com2uS came back like maybe 4 or 5 days later and they applied a patch. And the patch that they applied changed the boss's groggy behavior all around on all the Rift Beast. And it also made this guy not do, or it made the wind guy not do any rage, but it made this guy hit a little bit harder from like my feel of it. So I had to change this team after Com2uS did that first original patch. When I first came in here, I was using like a Verd and a speed leader and stuff like that. But currently, I am using this team. Now, I have like a million different teams that I can use that get almost similar scores, but this is the one that I found to work out the best. And I think the star of the show, that the really underrated monster that was one of the key factors in getting the really consistent S's and the high, like the high rate of like double S's and sometimes triple S's, was the incorporation of this lovely little lady right here, our Water Magic Knight. Everyone gets one of those for free, and we had a Hall of Heroes a long time ago, and we got the opportunity to get a bunch of free skill ups. And a long time ago, I skilled up the Water Magic Knight to mess around in Necropolis and to beat on the world boss. And the thing I want to put out there for the YouTube community is this Water Magic Knight is boss for Fire Rift Beast, no matter how you cut it or how you rune her, I have found. Okay? I have put her in the back line on like Rage runes, on Violet runes, on Vampire runes, and I have put her in the front line here. And on the front line in Vampire runes, she works out really, really well too. And the cool thing about her is that the multiplier on her little suck life from everybody, that little skill, the multiplier on that skill is really good, and she doesn't have to have like the craziest amount of attack in order to wipe these ads out with it. And I'll show you Mind's runes here in a few moments. But why the Water Magic Knight? I mean, she doesn't add armor break. She doesn't add brand, and she doesn't really do massive damage. Like when you think of massive damage monsters, you don't necessarily think of Water Magic Knight. Well, here's why. Okay, leader skill increases the attack power of all ally monsters by 25%. From what I have found, the amount of damage that you can rack up on the boss during groggy state is a sheer property of turns and stats. So things like Bernard and Verd and speed leaders, they help you on the boss, but they don't help you rack up damage on the boss's groggy state. And this Fire Rift here, it's not a hard place to clear with regularity. You can take a bunch of AoE guys and put some tanks in the front, and as long as you're killing the ads, he's going to die. And that's not too difficult to do. But the difficult thing is getting the damage up there in the boss groggy state. And attack speed leaders and attack bar boosters and such don't actually improve your team's ability to rack up damage in the boss's groggy state. It's just turns. It's just turns and damage and debuffs. So this is one of the rifts where you certainly want to bring an attack power leader, or you certainly want to bring like a crit leader or something. That attack power leader skill helps achieve the higher scores overall, because clearing this isn't necessarily the hard part. So I have found that even a water magic knight that doesn't have the greatest runes, her runes really don't have to make sense. She doesn't have to be in the front line on vampire. You can put her in the back line on like rage or something like that. She ends up being a really, really super effective monster for Fire Rift all around. And just as a recommendation, like based on my testing, like if you're not rocking something else that's better, and you're just out there looking for a monster that makes for huge contributions in Fire Rift, it's definitely this hidden gem, the Water Magic Knight. This particular Water Magic Knight is runed on Vampire, and she is put in the front line currently. And the cool thing about that is, if she's on Vampire and she's in the front line and she's doing AoEs all the time, she heals herself up with regularity. But at the same time, even though she's kind of tank, she still does like really, really consistent damage in order to clear out help clear out the ads, right? Help clear out the ads. So Water Magic Knight is just straight up recommendation for anybody if you're looking for like a really cool monster to have for a leader skill for Fire Rift. Look no farther than our lovely little free Lapis, the Water Magic Knight. So here's my Lapis. Here's the way she's currently set up. Okay, she got a decent amount of hit points, and she is Vampire Enhance. And why the enhance runes, I don't know. I was messing around with it and I stuck with it. Okay, I have put her in the back on like second-rate rage trash or violent, and it works. You know, she doesn't have to be great. Look at it. She doesn't have a lot of attack, right? And she doesn't have a lot of crit damage either. It's like, you know, like 96 crit damage. She's got 94 crit rate. I mean, like, we know she's gonna crit the fire boss with that 15% bonus. But I think the important thing is for frontline Vampire and enough crit rate where you're not, you know, you're going to crit all the time, and you don't need a lot of attack, you don't need a lot of crit damage, and this move right here is gonna wipe the ads. With as long as you have her with an attack power leader and you got you know, good towers powered up. Chow, we've seen Chow. He's Vampire Nemesis. I showed him off in the how to Light Rift or how I do Light Rift video a little while back. He's a beast in the front here because he does huge damage, and sometimes the way this team works out, he's like the last one to survive, and he's only going to hit the boss, and a lot of times he clears the boss. Wahi is a staple in a lot of Rift teams. I use her in a lot of Rift teams, and she's Violent Blade. with hit points and attack, like just a blend of speed, hit points, and attack, like survivability, right? Survivability, speed. She's a healer, right? She's there for heals and put an attack buff. My Zhao Lin doesn't have a lot of attack. She's kind of fast, and I run her 100% crit for Rift. It's not optimal for this Fire Rift beast, but hey, it works. And she's here for the armor break on the first turn, and this skill, with a little bit of random sauce mixed in, this skill is what allows you to, if you land armor break and brand, like if your auto team lands armor break and brand, and this goes off on the groggy state a couple of times, it's your scores just go through the roof. Stella's here for additional armor break, right? Because the more armor break, the better in your Rift teams as far as like racking up damage. And then, of course, the brand, and she is violent blade as well. Speed, attack, crit damage. And then the last key to this little team that I'll talk about here is wonderful little Fria. Okay. We'll show Fria's runes really quick, okay? Fria, I've tested her out. She doesn't need this much attack and crit damage. You want to have pretty decent crit rate, but in order for her to be effective here, she doesn't necessarily need to have these crazy stats. My Fria has crazy stats like this right now because I use her in Dragons. She's part of my super fast Dragons run, and I have tested her as recent as today with free rune removal with some slightly different stats, like with a defense rune here instead of an attack rune. And this move right here will still clear the adds, even on the third wave. It'll still one-shot the adds even if she doesn't have quite this much crit damage and attack. Why is Fria here instead of some other super AoE monster? The other super AoE monsters, they work for me. I have fun with them. I can put Alicia in the back and it does fine. I can put other water AoE type monsters in the back and they do fine. But I like my Fria here because her second skill is just every other turn. And her AI likes to use the second skill. And she doesn't get stupid. And she doesn't pass on that second skill so much. So her AoE is up a lot. And she is insurance. So that later on, if things get rough and the boss lands some stuns and the adds don't die, you've probably seen it on a couple of runs here now. She goes down, and then when she goes down, a couple of guys stay alive, and they have enough left to like finish off the boss. And that's why I use her in the back there, because she's kind of the difference between having S and double S 98% of the time and having S and double S like 70% of the time. Good old Fria. I have found that if I use other AoE monsters in the back and not Fria, I get hit by stuns a little more on the RNG, and I hit that A+ mark a little more than I really want to. And with Fria in the back here, I hit that S and that double S and that triple S way more, and there's a lot less A+ floating around because of her wonderful little ability to go down and take one for the team, so that Chow and everybody can finish off the fire guy on the third wave if RNG gets the best of me. But sometimes RNG doesn't get the best, and she stays alive and contributes as long as she's doing her AoEs. Hi guys, everybody! Thanks for hanging out in our topic today of Fire Rift. So basically, the primary point that I wanted to share with this particular video is, quite simply put, Fire Rift. If you're thinking about getting into Fire Rift, the best thing to do is just bring a bunch of AoE guys and put some tanks in the front and clear it and collect your A+, because that's the way to roll. Okay. If you're high end, get an attack power leader, get brand, get lots of armor break, and find some sort of a way to clear it with as much consistency as you can, but be able to put the armor break and the brand during groggy state with an attack power leader, no verd, or a crit rate leader, no attack bar boosters or attack speed and stuff like that, because that's what's going to get you the consistent S's and double S's and stuff like that. Now, is this the best Fire Rift team? No. I'm going to develop it, and I'm sure that a lot of people out there have maybe slightly better Fire Rift teams. There's a lot of monsters that I would really like to have for Fire Rift, but this is the one that I'm rolling with now because these are the monsters that I have, right? I have Fria, and I can stick her in the back here, and she helps me get really, really, really consistent S's and double S's like on the regular, and makes the run go fast, right? So this doesn't necessarily have to be like any sort of fire team that like I need to recommend to like the general public, but for the general YouTube public, I would make a strong recommendation for if you're thinking about what your best leader skill might be, and you're getting to that stage where you're trying to break through, like you're sick of the A's or you're sick of the B's, and you're trying to break through and improve the consistency of your S's or get more S's to get more loots. I would strongly recommend that maybe you break that Water Magic Knight out of storage if you haven't found any other use for her, and incorporate her here in the back line or in the front line, because she is boss. You can even, if you get her crit damage and attack up high enough, and I've tested this, if you get her crit damage and her attack up high enough, her first skill that just, taps everything, it can just auto clear the ads. Like if runed properly, if you have boss enough, rage or fatal runes on her, right? Like if you go rage or fatal on her, and you use her as an attack power leader, and you got building power ups, she can just do her little pew pew first skill, and all the ads fall over. Those runes are reserved for other monsters, and so I put her frontline in Vampire, and she's a contributor. But she technically could be used as like the only AoE monster that you need, and I think that is probably what I'm gonna shoot for one day, because every now and then this happens, and I get an A+. And the only difference, and I've tested this, and I've tested this, and I've tested this, even with Fria in here, the RNG will get you every now and then. And the only way I can think to make it to where the RNG doesn't get you is either sacrifice groggy state damage, or find a way to get a Magic Knight up in there with enough damage to where their first skill auto clears the ads. So David, you're onto something there, right? If I had a preference, I would maybe try to develop this team where a month from now, 2 months from now, I'm aiming towards being able to do Fire Rift with 1 or maybe 2 Magic Knights, to know that no matter how bad the RNG gets, because they do an AoE on their basic auto attack, them ads are just like always gonna die. And then throw in like lots of brand and armor break and stuff for groggy and an attack power leader to be able to rack up the really good scores. So yeah, I had a really busy day today, and I wanted to do a lot more videos and maybe do some like Saturday hangout time, but that's going to be reserved for tomorrow. I'll be back on tomorrow, and I have the day off, and I don't have any like crazy plans. So there will be like a lot more like video hangout time, and I won't be so groggy and tongue-tied. A lot more relaxed and fun. And tomorrow we got a little collaboration going with good old Childish Plays, and pretty soon, maybe at the beginning of next week, or maybe as early as like Sunday evening. Stay tuned for Childish Plays channels for the return of our long-awaited my favorite YouTube series of all time, featuring one and only some good old conversation about game strategy and fun silliness stuff. But yeah, tomorrow I want to hang out and just do some like randomness and maybe another couple of shorter videos, maybe some strategy videos. But today, the topic was Fire Rift Beast, how I am currently doing it and have been doing it for a while. My basic recommendation, which again, just as a recap, if you're at the lower end, bring lots of AoE and just clear it and get your A+. And if you're at the higher end, find that fine balance between boss groggy damage and enough AoEs to where you're not wiping. And share with maybe a little bit of the direction that I would like to head farther in terms of being able to rack up bigger scores in the future. So yeah, as always, hope it was fun. Thank you very much for hanging out, and see you guys tomorrow. Peace.